In Trinidad, if the tint on your vehicle is heavy, you'll be in heavy legal problems. So, what happens if you try to import vehicles that are bulletproof, blastproof, with gun holsters, smoke generators, tear gas dispensers, and heavily tinted? Well, this is 1060 Crimes, and it's 2001. According to reports, brothers Troy and Clint Gocking arrived in Trinidad on April 2nd. They were nationals that lived in the US. On their immigration cards, they said they were visiting for 7 days. That's important, so remember it. The Gocking brothers had shipped ahead 2 large SUVs, Lincoln Navigators, to Trinidad from Texas. It's reported that on April 5th, they were informed by the Customs and Excise Division that both vehicles had been cleared. So naturally, they went ahead and paid the duty owed on the vehicles. However, according to reports, there were 2 pieces of info on the customs documents that made the Customs Division raise an eyebrow. The first was that the brothers had stated they were moving back to Trinidad and that the vehicles were for personal use. But remember, on the immigration card they had stated they were only visiting for 7 days. What makes this important is that vehicles in Trinidad are right-hand drive. So if you are importing a left-hand drive vehicle, you need to be a citizen returning home, and the vehicle needs to be for personal use. The second issue, according to the Customs Division, was the price tag. The brothers had quoted the cost of the Lincoln Navigators as $25,000 each. However, Customs had realized that these vehicles had had some major security upgrades professionally done. Bullet-resistant glass, metal plates installed, gun holsters, ability to dispense tear gas canisters, and so on. From Customs Division's research, the vehicles were in the vicinity of $150,000 each. To put that into perspective, that's about $1 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars each. So 23 years ago, that would easily buy multiple houses. Police stepped in before the vehicles were handed over, and officers from Licensing Division, Customs Division, and the TTPS stripped both vehicles. Allegedly, Clint and Troy were informed that they would be able to collect the SUVs the next day, April 6th, but they were denied collection once again. The Gocking brothers left Trinidad for New York on April 10th. By the end of the month, the vehicles had officially been seized. Let me know if you think the vehicles should have been seized or released to the brothers. The acting police commissioner at the time said the vehicles were evidence for the Prime Minister's claim that there was a plot to destabilize his government. There were even claims flying about regarding the involvement of the Jamaat al-Muslimin, the organization that had attempted to overthrow the government 11 years earlier. However, the leader of the Jamaat al-Muslimin categorically denied any link between them and the 2 Lincoln Navigators. And he went on to say he doesn't even know the 2 brothers, so his organization should not be mentioned in the same breath as the fortified vehicles. The state then sought legal action against Clint and Troy, so the brothers gave power of attorney to their mother, Loretta, for all matters regarding the SUVs. The Gocking brothers refused to return to Trinidad as they were afraid for their lives due to the terrorist label now attached to them. By the next month, May 2001, senior bank employee Rosalia Gocking Half-Eyed unfortunately chose to stop living by use of weed killer. According to reports, she had been fired from her Independence Square Port of Spain branch the day before. Allegedly, she had been involved in a multi-million-dollar money laundering scheme, and some had claimed her lifestyle had quickly improved from borderline poor. 3 months later, August 2001, 35-year-old Stephen Gocking is arrested alongside 34-year-old Natasha Caine in an apartment on Franklin Road, Digger Martin. August 2001 reports stated the police seized 114 kilograms of that Colombian white material with a value of about $45 million. But in this case, it was in liquid form. There were 206 cans in total with fake Trinidad citrus fruit juice labels. Of the 206 cans, 161, totaling 24.98 kilograms, were found in Stephen Gocking's wife's SUV that he had borrowed. Miss Caine was not his wife, and 45 cans totaling 89.382 kilograms were found in the apartment with the lovebirds. Mr. Gocking said when the police entered the apartment, he thought his wife had sent someone to investigate the affair, and then after that, the only thing going through his mind was, what was he going to tell his wife? Miss Caine was given bail and then cleared of any involvement after the initial inquiry. Stephen was released on bail. His trial was 18 years later. He was found guilty of trafficking and sentenced to 20 years. For Mr. Gocking's trial, the quantity of the white material had been reduced from the original figure of 114 kilograms to just under 22 kilograms, with less than 5 kilograms being found in the house. Maybe the original figures included the weight of the cans and other supplementary chemicals like acetone. Maybe. Now, Stephen Gocking claimed the police found the cans in the apartment and relocated them to his wife's car. Why was this point so important for Stephen to make? Well, because he couldn't take Miss Caine to the Powder Magazine apartment in Digger Martin that he lived in with his wife, he had to borrow an apartment. So in a vehicle that wasn't his, he took the woman that wasn't his to an apartment that wasn't his. So it was extremely important to Mr. Gocking's defense that he said all the white material was in an apartment that didn't belong to him. He said he had gotten permission to use the apartment for an hour for his romantic adventures, and they had only been there 5 minutes when the police raided. Hence, none of the items in the apartment had anything to do with him. He was absolutely dumbfounded by the presence of the white material. At this point, the big question is, who owned the apartment? According to Stephen, it was his uncle, Marlon Gocking. So who is Marlon Gocking? Let's rewind 3 months to brothers Clint and Troy Gocking and their armored Lincoln Navigators. In May 2001, 45-year-old Marlon Gocking stated he had sold the 2 Navigators to his 2 nephews, Clint and Troy, months before for $25,000 each. In June 2001, Marlon said he had spoken to former Speaker of the House, Hector McLean, in August 2000 regarding the government leasing the 2 left-hand drive SUVs for the Prime Minister and President. They had even reached the point of discussing the fee. Initially, McLean appeared to sidestep the media's queries on the matter. Marlon also said he spoke to former National Security Minister John Donaldson about the matter. Donaldson, however, said Gocking had spoken to him about importation of left-hand drive vehicles, not armored vehicles. Eventually, Marlon added that he had transferred the 2 vehicles to his nephews using the barter system, so there had been an exchange of goods or services, but no money. Marlon also confirmed that the vehicles were in no way associated with the Jamaat al-Muslimin. By mid-2001, there was speculation that the vehicles may have actually still belonged to the brother's uncle, Marlon. Marlon stated his niece, Rosalia Gocking Halfhide, was not involved in money laundering. She had misappropriated large funds from his account. She also had not been fired as reported. She had been allowed to resign. He said she was never borderline poor, as she managed his car rental company, from which she took a percentage of the profits, and that alone could account for her lifestyle. Marlon said he thought he had made it clear to his niece to not worry about the missing money. He would replace it. And then, of course, his other nephew, Stephen, was arrested for the white material, sentenced to 20 years in 2019, and lost his first appeal in 2022. Stephen would be about 58 in 2024. It appears as if Marlon left a trail of unintentional tragedy in his wake. And it is those tales that seem to overshadow the stories of him trying to develop certain communities within Digger Martin. Marlon was well known in and about the capital, Port of Spain. He was Afrocentric down to his religion. He had even studied African studies at university. He took pride in his African garb and wore his hair in long braids whilst adorning himself with jewelry. In February 2008, as Marlon walked along Lower Frederick Street, chatting with people he knew, a lone gunman approached and with a volley of shots, took his life. This is 1060 Crimes, Small Caribbean, Big Crime.